In 1935, the U.S. Army Air Corps prepared to purchase a highly advanced next-generation aircraft. They handed their new B-17 bomber over to Major P.P. Hill, the military's most experienced veteran pilot, for a final test flight. But shortly after takeoff, the engines began to sputter and stop. The plane crashed, killing 2 crew members, including Major Hill. When investigators analyzed the wreckage, they expected to find a mechanical failure. They found nothing wrong with the machine. The crash was the result of pilot error. The new bomber had so many dials and switches that it had crossed a critical threshold of complexity. It was practically impossible for even the sharpest mind to manage every step from memory alone. The military could have demanded more rigorous training. Instead, they accepted that human memory is inherently fallible under pressure. Their solution was incredibly simple. They handed their pilots a simple piece of paper. Today, modern aviation relies entirely on this exact premise. From the moment pilots enter flight school, they are taught that placing blind faith in their own memory will eventually get people killed. Which brings us to a contradiction. If strict checklists are a proven lifeline in the sky, why do highly educated professionals down on the ground, like surgeons and investors, refuse to use them? Part of the resistance comes down to culture. We prefer our experts to be brilliant, improvising mavericks who solve complex problems with pure instinct. Checklists are mundane. They imply a lack of natural talent. We see this cultural bias perfectly illustrated in the 2009 U.S. Airways water landing, known globally as the Miracle on the Hudson. After both engines failed, Captain Chesley Sullenberger safely guided the plane into the river, saving 155 lives. The media immediately crowned him as a solitary maverick genius. Sullenberger fiercely rejected that framing. In his interviews, he insisted that the survival of the passengers was a direct result of coordinated teamwork and his crew rapidly executing their emergency checklists. The public largely ignored his clarification, writing it off as personal modesty. Society actively prefers the exciting myth of a solitary savior over the repetitive, unglamorous reality of procedural discipline. This cultural bias becomes a serious hazard in high-stakes environments like medicine and finance. In these fields, professionals actively weaponize the lone genius myth to protect their own egos. The philosopher Michel Foucault described this dynamic through his concept of knowledge power. This power stems from information asymmetry. A surgeon or a hedge fund manager holds a massive web of specialized knowledge, while the patient or client across the table has almost zero ability to verify what they are doing. When a surgery fails or an investment portfolio collapses, experts deploy that imbalance as a shield. They can easily blame the failure on uncontrollable market forces or biological complications, rather than admitting they missed a basic operational step. Checklists require discipline and humility. However, the core value promoted in medical and financial training is autonomy, the absolute freedom of the expert to trust their gut. Rejecting a checklist does not prove extreme competence. It is an ego-driven defense mechanism designed to block outside scrutiny and preserve the expert's elite status. True expertise requires recognizing the absolute limits of human cognition. It means building a reliable system to protect your operation from your own inevitable mental blind spots. The rock band Van Halen understood this perfectly. A typical Van Halen stadium concert required 9 semi-trailers full of highly sensitive electrical equipment and staging. Buried deep in their concert contract was an infamous demand. The local promoter had to provide a bowl of M&Ms backstage, but absolutely no brown ones were allowed. People assumed this was pure diva behavior. In reality, it acted as a highly efficient diagnostic checklist. If the band arrived and found a brown M&M in the bowl, they immediately knew the local crew hadn't read the dense technical safety protocols, and they could halt the show before a stage light fell on someone. You see this same pragmatic humility in the highest levels of finance. Contrast the typical Wall Street ego with Warren Buffett. Buffett relies on a strict written checklist before making any investment. He uses it to strip emotion and mental fatigue out of his multi-billion-dollar decisions, forcing himself to verify the hard numbers and qualitative risks every single time. An amateur relies on their ego to wing it. A master tests the stone bridge before crossing it. Pick one high-stakes task in your own work, drop the pride, and write out a simple 5-point checklist today.